Hey guys, welcome to the channel. As you can see from the title of the video, I'm going to be covering what is rent to rent, because I've had a few people actually ask me what is rent to rent. I want a little bit more details and like the kind of two models that I do, and if I can go into a little bit more specifics about that. So what rent to rent is. What rent to rent is basically when you, as either a person, a freelancer, you can do that, but ideally you want to have a company, is when you are leasing a property for your business, okay? Now this is exactly the same as any other business. If you go to a shopping center, when you see like these shops, you see Boots, you see Tesco's, you see Hollister, you see Debenhams or whatever, those companies, they don't actually own that area that they're operating in. They are actually leasing that office space or whatever, and then they are operating their business there to then make a profit, which would then, you know, pay for their rental for the lease of their offices or whatever. What rent to rent is, it's the exact same thing. However, we are renting or leasing residential properties, okay? And then you can actually turn them into a commercial property if you wish. So when you are leasing a residential property, I'll make this scenario for a house of multiple occupation, which is similar to the example I just gave earlier. So it's like you'll have a house, and in that house you'll have, call it 5 rooms. Now, you'll rent out the whole house, call it for, I'll just be really easy and say £1,000 a month. And now each of these rooms are like the offices or the spaces, like I mentioned in the example before. And what you're gonna do is you're gonna rent out these rooms or offices to individuals, working professionals or students. Like if you went to university, I'm sure that you can remember that you were in a house share, or you stayed in halls or university accommodation and you were paying just for your room, which might have had an ensuite, and you had a shared space, a shared common area. Now that's exactly what rent to rent is with the HMO business model, okay? So you're actually renting out the whole place for a cheaper rent, and then you are arbitraging, and then you are renting out room by room, and call it £500 per room, and minus expenses, you could be making maybe £1,000 profit per month on that one property. I hope that makes sense, okay? There are questions where people are like, isn't that subletting? Isn't subletting illegal? Yes, subletting is illegal. You would be right if, and it's only if, you have not notified the landlord or it's not specified in your contract, because most contracts are ASTs, and in those ASTs, they will most likely say you cannot sublet, okay? So if you start subletting and it says in your contract you cannot, then you are 100% being an illegal person, or whatever, you're operating an illegal business. So the way to get around that is by having an agreement where it says specifically that subletting is allowed, and then you are able to rent out room by room however you see fit, okay? So that's actually the way that subletting is actually legal, because if you think about it, like in the example I gave before, there are companies who have, let's call it just normal businesses, they will rent out a whole office block of buildings, this whole block of offices, and they don't use all the offices themselves. What they will do is they'll actually then rent out those individual offices to other businesses, which is what? Subletting. But in their contract, they're going to have, an agreement to say that they are allowed to sublet. So that's the exact same thing that we do, okay? And how you guys can actually do the same thing, all right? I hope that makes sense. Now there's another business model, which is serviced accommodation, which is this house that I'm in right now. This house is actually worth £1 million, and I'm able to take on a property like this without buying it and actually rent it for a profit every single month. So imagine like having £1 million house in your portfolio, and I can stay here whenever I like. Like I think you guys can see, like, look how nice this is. I mean, this is so beautiful. And I have properties around the UK that whenever they're free and available, I can just go and stay there. So I think it's really cool because I can have a base. Like at the moment I'm in London and I love London. I've always wanted to live here, but I've never been able to like think, oh man, like the rent here and buying a house here is obviously insanely expensive. So it's a really awesome business model, the serviced accommodation one. So what serviced accommodation is, it's like a typical tour, comparing it to like a hotel. You will be able to book a apartment or book a home for a number of nights or a week, 2 weeks, 4 weeks, however long that someone might want it for. It's like an Airbnb scenario. Like you can list them on Airbnb, you can list them on booking.com, and you can charge a lot more, because if you think about like, if you've ever like rented on Airbnb or something, and you've rented an apartment and it's like a 2-bed apartment, and you're thinking, whoa, like they've charged £140 per night for this, but reality, you know, they're only paying maybe £1,500 or less for that place per month. So they need to make their money back. And that's what we're doing on this property. So we're renting out this property for around £300 per night, maybe a little bit more, but at the moment, because of the pandemic, it's obviously a little bit, you know, we don't really know what's happening, you know, with lockdown and everything. So we are ideally, you know, trying to attract longer term bookings. And if someone's going to be booking for 1 month, 2 months or 3 months, I'm going to be giving them, you know, a discount, because they're going to be staying for that long, but then it just makes it more secure for us. And that's a really awesome way to make some money, because I can have someone in here staying for 1 or 2 months, and at the rates that they would pay and that we would charge maybe anywhere between, at the moment, I mean, because of the lockdown and the pandemic, we would probably charge around like 5 to 6 grand for the month. And that's going to be a nice healthy profit of like, I don't know, 2.5K monthly. But what you need to realize is that it's a very passive income stream. For these business models, you can't just pick any property. You can't just go and get a house and just start doing it, because like I said before, you know, you need certain permissions. You'll need the correct contract first of all, and also you'll need some licenses. So if you're going to do the HMO model, there needs to be a HMO license, there needs to be like fire doors, there needs to be interlinked fire alarm systems, locks on the doors, it needs to be soundproof to a certain degree, and obviously you're going to need to have it in the right area. There's something called Article 4, and if you don't know what Article 4 is, it's basically an area that if you want to do a HMO, you will need a license, and sometimes if you are outside of the Article 4 area, you will not need a HMO license. So there are a few caveats to this business model. Now with serviced accommodation, on the other hand, you would actually need permission from the freeholder, whoever owns the property. So if you're doing it in like an apartment building, those are leasehold. And usually on the leasehold, on the contract, it would say that there is no subletting allowed. So you would actually need to go directly to the freeholder and get permission from them to then rent out on a short-term basis. And also another thing to note is that mortgages. So you would need to have permission from the mortgage lender. So whoever the landlord is, they would need to get permission from the mortgage lender to then rent on a short-term basis. And also the same for the HMO. So you will need to get permission from the mortgage lender to say, hey, can I rent out my rooms room by room? Okay, so I hope that all makes sense, guys. So with this business model, I've done loads of things in the past. I've made passive income in other businesses, but this is the best one in my personal opinion to get started anyway. For anyone to get started in this, you know, your education doesn't have to, you don't need to be a university graduate. You don't need to be like the super smartest person. I think what you really need is just like determination. You need to be brave as well, because like this is a business and you know you will need to spend money. But ultimately, I think the most important thing to do is to invest in yourself. Like I've had mentors, I've paid for mentors, and once I paid for the mentor who was in a position that I wanted to be in, they helped accelerate my journey massively. So I think if you have seen some of my previous videos before, I have been mentoring a lot of people in this business model, but then also just in their general businesses as well, because I had a background in online marketing. So I'm helping people to get started in this business, and if this is something that sounds of interest to you, I'll be more than happy to book a call with you and discuss how we can get you started in this. We go over absolutely everything from the compliance, the insurance, the legals, the documents. I will provide you all of these things, which for me was like one of the biggest barriers. You know, we'll create your company with you, we'll help you set up your website, will help you to learn where the demand is, where a good property is, and of course the other things that I just mentioned, all the permissions that you're going to need will help you go from completely no property and zero knowledge to being pretty much a property consultant. So I think it's an awesome strategy to get started, and then you don't have to be like, the be all and end all of this strategy, rent to rent. This is just, for me, was the foundation, because now it's allowed me to start other businesses. Like I edit videos, I'm now on YouTube, which is obviously just a new channel. But this is stuff that I enjoy, and I enjoy going traveling, and I enjoy spending time with my friends, and I enjoy, the best part is, I enjoy waking up when I want to wake up. I think that is so priceless, because sleep is so important, and I've had a background in like health and wellness, which I'll probably be talking about in the channel as well, and how it kind of helps your mindset. But we'll talk about that maybe in another video. But guys, I hope that all made sense and you learned a little bit about this strategy, and I hope to see you soon. If you guys want to see a few other videos about becoming financially free and earning passive income, and maybe even a couple of ideas of what you can do now to actually earn some extra income, check out some of my videos that I might put some, I think, this side or this side, and then you just have a look at them, guys. So I really appreciate your time, and have a good day. Bye now.